On the Talkback Show, on the radio, or whatever audiovisual device you choose to use. Welcome to the GBC podcast, where we talk about the Packers and our hometown of Green Bay. This is episode 19, created on September 7th, 2022. I'm John. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. Along with me, I've got Jeff in Minnesota, Neil on the East Coast, and we have a special guest tonight, Mattieu in Montreal. Say hello, gentlemen, and tell us what you're drinking.
Hello, guys. So I'm drinking a mango lemonade tonight in my Discover Green Bay cup.
Excellent. I was out golfing this weekend over the Labor Day weekend, and at the end I finished at a brewery, the Hopkins Farm Brewery, and I'm having their Sucker Peached beer.
All right. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm having the Evil Twin Brewery Even More Jesus Imperial Stout. Good and good for you.
And for the first time, I am not doing a mixed drink.
Ooh, PBR.
Wow.
Welcome to Wisconsin.
All right. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter at Green Bay Chat and Facebook at the GBC Podcast Green Bay Chat. And now just the audio is available as well on Spotify and Anchor. You can search for us using Green Bay Chat. Lots of things to talk about tonight, primarily the 2022 season. You're going to get a lot of predictions from us on the Packer records, how the NFC North is going to look, what we think the playoffs and the Super Bowl will look like. But we have a special guest before we get into all of that. As mentioned, his name is Mattieu. He lives in Montreal, en Canada. He is a Québécois maintenant.
No, I'm French, but
Parisian.
yeah.
Né Parisien, oui. But tell us, Matthew, how how did you become a Packer fan? Going from Paris to Montreal, give us your journey.
Yeah, honestly, back in the days in France, we didn't have a broadcast, a channel to watch NFL games. I think there was only one game per week on Wednesday, so maybe 3 or 4 days after the game. And it was like a condensed games. It was not the whole game, so I didn't have the chance to watch NFL. But one day, honestly, it was to watch the Black Eyed Peas on the halftime show. So for the Super Bowl against Pittsburgh, and so I watched the game, and I loved how the Green Bay plays with Rodgers, Clay Matthews, Greg Jennings, Nick Collins. So it was like, it was new to me, but I love the game. I love the Packers. And during the game, I watched Wikipedia about the Green Bay Packers, and it was my team. Simply like that.
Excellent.
It was my team. So
that is a perfect start.
yeah.
When you moved to Canada, your wife, nobody could convince you to become a Buffalo Bills fan by proximity.
Nope. No, it was Green Bay all the time. And because in France we have a 6-hour time difference. So back in the days, it was during the night, Sunday night football at 2 a.m. in France. So Thursday night football 2, Monday night football 2. So it was
That's dedication.
yeah, of course. And sometimes I watch the game at 2 a.m. and I started working at 6 a.m. So I didn't sleep.
Dedication. Excellent.
That is, yes. Wow.
Now we know we've got Packer fans around the world, and there's a big deal with us being in London this year. Certainly a lot of the European fan base is going to get to go to the game, but you took it upon yourself as a fan to go a step further. You've got a Twitter page that you've been running that you run in French.
Yes.
Talk about how did you get that started, and what kind of following do you have with that?
Yeah, it's been 7 or 8 years. I have this Twitter account. So we are now almost 2,500 followers.
Wow.
So it's pretty big for a French account. I think I am the 3rd or 4th Twitter account in French, because there is Seattle, maybe Dallas above me. Yeah.
You're the biggest of the Packer French account.
Yeah.
Okay.
And since last year, we have our own podcast. It's called the TetesDeFromage, so cheesehead. So we have more than 40 shows now.
Excellent.
So every week we talk about the game, the last game and the next game. And since a few weeks, I created a where a French-speaking community can be a member. So I have a list of French-speaking fans, and we have also a map with French-speaking fans. So we have fans in Morocco, Belgium, France, and Canada,
Fantastic.
of course. Yeah.
And then you get a few English-speaking guys like
Yeah,
me who try
like
to
you.
pretend that they still know French from 30 years ago. Yeah.
Well, I think I've been following your account since very early on then, because I've got sort of my special list of accounts that I follow closely, and I just love the information. I think that it's easy to follow something like Packers news in French, and that you can pick up words just from context. And you've been really helpful as far as keeping my French sharp over the years too. So and keeping me up on Packers news, because I pay more attention to your Packers news than some of the official news accounts, because they're just in English. Who cares? So you give all the information you need. So why do I need to look at all these other ones closely?
Thank you. And the three of you can register on my website. You will be the first three Americans.
Excellent.
Fantastic. All right.
So, what is the website again?
It's TetesDeFromage.com.
Okay.
TetesDeFromage. That's awesome. Cheesehead.
We will get that information out on our Twitter page as well. And with that, we did connect as well, Matthieu, through Twitter. And you came to Green Bay. You and I got to meet in person, which was excellent. You found me. You found the Lot 1 tailgate. Tell us about your experience in Green Bay.
Like in a dream, because honestly, I was warm welcome, and the game we won, so it was good.
That helps.
Yeah, of course. But the whole experience was very awesome. Honestly, I can't wait to come back. So yeah,
the Green Bay Chamber of Commerce thanks you. That's awesome. No, and that's we've talked about this too. Being the three of us are from Green Bay, and just kind of it is a close, small knit community, but is very welcoming. That's the whole point, right? Yeah,
it's a small city, and it's really beautiful.
There's a lot of great French history. Jean Nicolet,
exactly.
A lot of
came
history.
into Green Bay first. Marquette and Joliet, the missionaries and explorers.
Claude Alloway.
Yeah, certainly. And then there's the legend of the Dauphin. The King Louis, allegedly he escaped the revolution and lived out his days as a young man growing up in De Pere, in that area. There's even a road there called Lost Dauphin Road, that the legend always had it that he had emigrated there and lived along the Fox River. So always just some really neat French history along with the city and the area, and great Packer history. You did get to get around town too, I believe, when you were in the area.
I was in De Pere. My hotel was in De Pere, and I walk around the city, and I met John, Mark Murphy, and Andy Mulumba was there. So he speaks French, our former linebacker, and I met him at the game, so it was nice.
Well, what are your thoughts on the coming season here, Matthieu? What do you think the Packers are going to do?
Honestly, I'm optimistic, like every year, because we have Aaron Rodgers, of course, but I think our defense is the best we've had since a lot of years. We have two great running backs, dual threat running backs, and my only interrogation is about our receivers, because I'm not sure about that. I was hoping to get a veteran, a free agent, maybe during the break. So we'll see, because I don't know how Sammy Watkins will respond. We don't know how Lazard as first wide receiver will respond. So I think the key This year is Matt Lafleur, honestly, because he has to be the best coach for this team, and with Rodgers, they have a great relationship, and he has to be perfect, honestly, because with the receiver we have, the play calling will be very important.
And since we're going to do much too early predictions as well, we're going to put you on the spot. What do you think? Record for the season, playoffs, where are they going to end up this year?
So I have 12-5 for the season, with losses against Minnesota, the first game, Tampa, the Rams, Philadelphia, and Buffalo. Our chance to get the #1 seed is that the NFC West will be crazy between the Rams, the 49ers, and the Cardinals. So maybe it will be between us and the Buccaneers. I don't know, maybe. But I still go with the Bucs as a first seed.
Okay.
And then, so number seed Packers against Cowboys, the first round of the playoffs. So against Mike.
Yep.
I have Rams over Vikings and Eagles over 49ers. Then divisional round, I have Eagles over Bucks.
Ooh.
And Packers over Rams.
So Packers, Green Bay, Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game?
Yep.
Are you sure you didn't steal my notes? I've got the same picks.
Oh,
and who do you like there in that NFC Championship game?
Of course, Green Bay Packers.
So who's coming out of the AFC then?
So AFC, I have Chargers over Broncos, Bengals over Ravens, and Chiefs over Colts.
All right.
Divisional round, I have Bills over Chiefs, Chargers over Bengals, and Bills over Chargers. So Bills, Packers at the Super Bowl.
You're setting the tone because there's going to be a lot of repetition.
We might as well just sort of give our segment now. I've got the same championship game as well. So,
so you have
a lot of consensus.
Green Bay and Buffalo in Arizona in the Super Bowl is what you're calling for. All right. And who's going to win the Super Bowl, Matthieu?
Sadly, Buffalo.
Oh no. And you did say the game in Buffalo will go to Buffalo as well, correct?
I hope to go there, honestly, because I have family in Toronto, so I'll try to go to the game on Sunday because it's Sunday night football.
Yep.
But you believe Buffalo is going to win that game though too, right? The regular season game. Okay. I
think they are too strong. Right. Yeah.
Well, we'll still let you hang out with us.
Of course, I can stay.
Yeah. So we're planning to be in Buffalo for that game. So if you do make it, please connect with us, and we would love to hang out with you and try to figure out our way around town and what to do. So real quick, give us your sales pitch again. Your Twitter page, your website. Where can everybody find you if they want to know more in French about the Packers?
Yeah, it's Packers France. So Packers FR for my Twitter account. We have also a Twitter account for our podcast. It's called TetesDeFromage with a Tet with plural, so with a S. We have our own podcast. You can, if you understand French, of course, because it's only in French. And that's it.
That FR and Packers and your Twitter account, FR could be French or fromage. Either way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, Matthieu, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Anything you want to shout out to Packer fans out there before we go?
No, thanks for having me in your podcast, and thanks for the warm welcome in Green Bay. I can't wait to come back in your beautiful city and I told you, maybe for training camp next year or family night, because it's a different experience, I think. So I hope to see you again next year.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Merci beaucoup. And thanks for joining us, Mathieu.
Merci.
De rien. And now we're going to stick only to English here for the rest of the show, maybe. We do have our own predictions to go through. Matthieu, give us his. We'll talk about our predictions for the season for the Packers and what we think the playoffs are going to do. But the season as a whole, in general, what has to happen? Neil, you've got some thoughts.
Well, as Packers fans, we, like to be optimistic, at least before every season, right? The Pack is back and all of that, even though we haven't used that bumper sticker for quite a while. And so what are our reasons for optimism for the season? So obviously we've got Aaron Rodgers. That's the biggest possible reason for optimism. Two-time reigning MVP. Our defense is projected by some people to be potentially the #1 defense in the NFL, especially with Jair returning and with the rookies that we have. We've got a fabulous running back tandem that combined for 2,306 yards from scrimmage and 17 touchdowns last year between Dillon and Jones combined rushing and passing. We are expecting that there are going to be a number of young players that are going to make a leap. People like DeGuara, people like Stokes, possibly Amari Rodgers, certainly rookies such as Kai Walker and Devontae Wyatt. We potentially have a strong line. Again, we've got 3 very young players on the line in Myers, Runyon, and Newman, combining with some veterans that gives us a team that's got a lot of potential talent. I would argue the biggest thing we have in our favor right now is that we don't have Russell Wilson anymore. We don't have Matt Ryan. And on top of that, we've got Tom Brady hitting 45 years old this year. The most important thing for the Packers season as far as optimism, we're not in the AFC. And we're also the first team in NFL history to win 13 games 3 consecutive years. And if we think about, possible negatives, while we don't have Davante Adams, but under Matt LaFleur, the Packers have been 7-0 without Davante Adams when Davante Adams hasn't played. So there's a lot of reason for optimism as far as the team is concerned. So let's just go with that. Do you have any other reasons for optimism, John and Jeff, before I get to my reasons for pessimism or reasons for concern?
I think you touched on it. Certainly the consistency of Aaron Rodgers, his ability to connect with the coach. I think the offensive planning and scheming certainly helps out. And I think just some excellent drafts over the last 3 to 4 years as well. Always bringing players up, having good depth, and increasing the speed in particular on the defense this year is the biggest factor that I've been saying that for years, probably since the last Super Bowl, that what has the defense been missing? It's been missing speed. And I think that is definitely the biggest issue that they have addressed. And I think we're going to see a much faster and stronger Packers defense that should dominate this season.
I mean, it's speed, but also just the pure quality, right? The Packers haven't had a #1 defense in the NFL since the '96 season. We've got that possibility this year to be the #1 defense in the NFL. And, sure, things could happen, but we at least can think that that's a possibility. And I wouldn't say that I've had that thought for quite a while.
So my take on this, and to follow up on Mattieu's, when he brought up Coach LaFleur. So LaFleur has obviously had huge success. This is his 4th year as a head coach. Okay, so he at this point, he's kind of growing into it or whatever. Obviously, he's had a great deal of success his first 3 years, but I think that he's getting more used to it. He obviously is getting, just better at coaching. And I think that's obviously going to be really key here. Again, as I totally agree with what Mattieu said, that it's a skill, and he's young. You look at Sean McVay and you look at some of the younger coaches and kind of the it coaches and things like that. And, LaFleur's in a really short list of really, really good coaches over these last years. And now this is his opportunity to take young players and veteran players and to make that next step. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
And you go to that, young coach, or at least newer coaches things, that coach quarterback combination. If they're going to make a Super Bowl, it typically is in, their year 4, year 5 regime at the latest. And so now is the time when that can potentially happen.
So with that said, Neil, what's your downside for the year?
What's the flip side of the coin?
You guys watched the NFC divisional round game between San Francisco and Green Bay, right?
Yes,
Rodgers was sacked 5 times. No scoring by no touchdowns after the opening drive.
No touchdowns by their offense either. Really,
that goes to our defense being good, or possibly Jimmy Garoppolo not being good. But
yeah.
Obviously the continuing concerns that we've had as Packers fans about what could happen in the playoffs are still alive. we have a very young team in many positions, but we also have some key players, some older players, right? So you say, well, we're expecting a Josh Myers or a John Runyon to improve. Well, is Preston Smith, who turns 30 this year, is he somebody who's potentially going to start to fall off? Adrian Amos at safety, you need that speed. Obviously, Bakhtiari, we're already starting to worry about it. We're all, I think, the belief that Mason Crosby, it was mostly a fluke last year of the asshats that led to some of his lower production, but he's getting up there in age as well. Obviously, when we talk about the weaknesses as far as the receivers are concerned, these are the numbers for our receivers last year. Lazard, 40 receptions, 513 yards. Cobb, 28 receptions, 375 yards. Sammy Watkins, 27 receptions, 394 yards. We don't have anyone who's really got the proven component. And maybe it's going to be a wide receiver by committee rather than a running back by committee. But that's going to be certainly the most interesting thing about the first half of the season, is to see how that wide receiver room plays out. I think that we are concerned. We have real problems as far as potential injuries. We see this with David Bakhtiari, who now looks like he's going to start in week 1, Elgton Jenkins, who is not quite ready, but now Lazard is injured too. I mean, we've got a situation where every team is, of course, sensitive to injuries, but I think that we've got a couple of key positions where there is concern. I worry about regression to the mean. Devondre Campbell, Rasul Douglas were fabulous last year. That was really the first time in their careers that they've been fabulous. And 1 year flat, they 1 year flash in the pan, or was that something that just took them a long time?
Well, they were paid, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
We do have to make up for Devontae Adams' 1,553 receiving yards, obviously. And then there's some interesting statistics as far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned. So his top line numbers obviously are great. He was the MVP last year, 69% completion, 4,100 yards, 7.7 yards per attempt. But under pressure last year, he was ranked 30th with a 38% completion, the same as Trevor Lawrence. And specifically when facing pressure, he only had a passer rating of 69, a 5.1 yards per attempt, which ranked him 29th in the NFL. And so, coaches in the NFL are smart. They are going to know that they've got to go after Rodgers early and often. And, when we face teams in the playoffs, if a team can stop Rodgers with their front four, that's always been something that's been a problem. Bigger picture question. The Packers were 13-4 last year, but they only were plus 79 in point differential. By Pythagorean wins, they should have only had 10 wins last year. In the last 3 years, they've had 39 wins, but Pythagorean wins should only be 31. That is, their point differential suggests that they should have been a lot worse than they were. And that has never been sustainable as far as a team is concerned. And on top of that, we've got the fundamental problem that the Vikings, the Lions, and even the Bears, I think, have improved. And so it's not going to be as much of a cakewalk as far as the division is concerned. On the other hand, I think we're still better than them. And so that is going to be a good thing. But there are a lot of these nagging concerns that we have, and they're going to play out as far as the year is concerned. And I think that, we're only going to see. I mean, this is the beauty of the game of football. Careers are short. As far as players are concerned, people make leaps. And if the people making leaps overcome the deficiencies that our team and every team has, then we're going to be okay. And injuries, of course, then we're going to be okay. And we're just going to have to see how that works out.
All right. You put it all out there, Neil. What's the number? What's your record for the Packers for this season? They will be
11-6.
11-6, says Neil. I say 12-5. Jeff, what do you have them down at?
I'm at 12-5.
12-5 as well. For me, that 12-5 record gives them the number 3 seed in the NFC. We'll go ahead and break down all those. I know you wanted to look at the week by week, Neil. It might be a lot easier if we just talk about the losses instead of going through every week. That's kind of what Matthieu did, is he told us who he thought the losses were. So I'll throw mine out there because I agree with him. I don't think that Green Bay is ready in week 1. And maybe I'm snake bit because of last year. And that Saints game, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, we won't get fooled again, right? Yep. So I say, Minnesota. I also believe the Tampa Bay game is a loss. I believe that we will be disappointed when we go to Buffalo. The other 2 losses, then I have the Rams in Green Bay, and then the last game of the season, Detroit, because it's a meaningless game. I think Detroit's going to squeak out a win on that one to put the Packers at 12-5 on the season. So all the other games naturally are wins. Then is how I break it down.
Continuing with what you were saying, so I've got a loss at the Vikings. So my thought is defense is going to carry the day here. If I'm wrong, they beat Minnesota. Fabulous. So, but I've got them for a loss. Then also week 3 at Tampa. Just, it's going to be, it could be ugly. It's going to probably still be hot down there. Just playing in the heat, national game. For whatever reason, Rodgers just has not played well against, like I said, the Brady and that front 4 defense that Tampa provides. Like pretty much everyone else at this point, I've got a loss also with the Bills, but then I've got a little mid-season swoon. I've got a loss at Detroit as well. Then it's a long season. You've got just 2 or 3 road games in a row. So I've got us losing 2 of those 3 road games, week 8 and week 9. I also have a loss at Philadelphia on Sunday night, November 27th. I just think you've got Dallas, you've got Tennessee, 2 physical teams. Those are both at home. Then we go back on the road, and I've got a loss at the Eagles, and then I've got them running the table. I do have them beating, obviously, the Rams, the Dolphins, the Vikings, and Detroit. And I'm thinking that Detroit game may not be so meaningless. So that's why I've got them winning that game. Plus, the Lions are at Lambeau. They're generally, Packers struggle a little bit when they've gone to Detroit. I mean, historically, in the last 30 years, there's only been a couple losses, period. But I think probably at Detroit's going to be really tough. But I think once they're back outside in January at Lambeau, that's going to be a win. So I've got, again, 12-5, got there a little bit differently than you. Neil, what say you?
Okay, so I also put us losing in the season opener. So we're a really cheerful bunch.
We're
as
really
far as
consistent, aren't we?
We'll have a more complete discussion of what our thoughts are for the Minnesota game in just a little bit. We beat the Bears. The Tampa Bay game is the second toughest game to pick as far as I'm concerned. And I put us winning at Tampa Bay. And it's despite the fact that it's Florida in September. I think the fact that Tom Brady's 45-year-old is finally going to make a difference. I think having Todd Bowles as the head coach instead of Bruce Arians is also capable of making a difference. This may be hope on my part, but I have decided that Tampa Bay is not going to be as good as everyone predicts them to be this year.
I also agree with you there, Neil.
After that, we've got a couple of wins against relatively hapless teams, but we play at London against the Giants, and then we play Jets at home, and then we go to Washington. And I actually have us losing in Washington, not because it's a particularly difficult game, but I think that they're a good sort of, or a basic average team. The Packers have sometimes struggled in Washington. I've been to plenty of games there. Carson Wentz is just good enough to cause trouble for the Packers. We're still not fully figuring out who our receivers are. Our defense is shining, but maybe our offense is not. I just see it as a tough place for us to play. And so I've got us losing in Washington. I've got us losing in Buffalo for the reasons already mentioned. I've got us winning in Detroit. But yeah, we've got at London, in London, Jets at home, at Washington, at Buffalo, at Detroit. I think we're going to lose 2 of those 3 games between Washington, Buffalo, and Detroit. And I could just as easily have gone to at Detroit as being one of those. I could certainly see us losing that game. I've got us losing in the Mike McCarthy Bowl against Dallas. And it's fundamentally because the game matters more to Mike McCarthy than it does to Matt LaFleur and to the Packers. And
even at Lambeau?
Even at Lambeau, I think it matters more to Mike McCarthy. And so I think that is going to be a tough game, but it's one that it's the regular season, and it's not Mike McCarthy in the playoffs. Mike McCarthy is well prepared for the regular season, and so he can put together a game plan that will not involve putting his hands around his throat. I also have us losing to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a team that a lot of people have put as a sleeper Super Bowl pick, and I have read enough that I believe that. Playing in Philadelphia is a nightmare. I've been to plenty of games in Philadelphia as well. I think that's going to be really tough. The good news is that they've got Jalen Hurts still, and I'm still not convinced that he has made the leap.
QB1.
I've got us beating the Rams coming off a bye. Matt LaFleur is good coming off a bye. I have
and it's in Green Bay.
And it's in Green Bay. I have my final loss is us losing at Miami on Christmas Day. And it's fundamentally because it's coming off of a Monday night game. It's on the road. And those are always tougher games to play. I think that the Dolphins are going to make a leap to at least challenge for the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make it, but I think they're going to challenge for the playoffs. And that is going to be enough. And, the combination of coming off a Monday night and just Florida in general is enough for me to be concerned about that game. So that's how I arrived at 11-6.
All right. So what do you have for the rest of the NFC North then? Where do the chips fall with the NFC North?
I've got the Packers 11-6, the Vikings at 10-7. I think the Vikings will improve with a new head coach and a new offensive scheme. Not enough to overtake the Packers, but they are going to be a threat. If the Packers drop games they shouldn't drop. I've got the Lions improving as well, but only to 7-10. I think the Bears are going to stink at 5-11, but they'll be feisty at least for a few games because I do
5-11.
5-11 for the Bears. 5-11. 5-12. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
They're not going to skip a game or forfeit a game or have a media strike. So
They're just like
5-12 for the Bears.
And we're close on that. I've got Green Bay again, like I said, at 12-5. But I've got Minnesota limping in at a 7-10 record under that first-year head coach. Detroit improving to 6-11, and I'm taking Chicago to win just 2 games this year. Chicago 2-15. They will, based on my pick. Chicago's going to walk away with the number 1 draft pick after this season. Jeff, what do you get?
You were not a Justin Fields fan, is what I'm hearing.
I'll go from the bottom to the top then. So I've got the Bears actually at 5-12 also. That's why when I said 5-11, I was like, God, 5-12. I've got the Lions.
It's going to take a few years to adjust to the 17 game season. Okay?
Yes. Yeah. I've got the Lions at 8-9. They're almost getting to that 500. But this is not their year. I've got the Vikes at 9-8. So I do not have the Vikes as a playoff team. I think there's, we talked about last week, kind of the running back. I mean, Dalvin Cook, but then they've got 5 running backs on their roster and just some other things. I don't know. I've got them at 9-8. I don't have them in the playoffs. I think that they will have some good games, but I think that they will also have some really not good games as well. So they're gonna come limping in at 9-8.
Taking a look then at the standings and who's going to make the playoffs here. I'll go down mine here. In the AFC, I've got probably a bit overrated, but my number 1 seed came out as Tennessee at 14-3. I've got Kansas City also at 14-3, but they are taking the 2 seed by tiebreaker. The 3 seed will be Buffalo at 13-4. And then out of the AFC North, Baltimore at 12-5, getting the 4 seed. They're going to have the tiebreaker over Cincinnati, who's also going to have a 12-5 record. Then I've got the Chargers in at 13-4 and the Patriots in at 12-5. So those are my AFC teams. And on the NFC side, I am taking Arizona at 13-4 to get the 1 seed. I'm giving Tampa Bay the tiebreaker and the 2 seed at 12-5, Green Bay at 12-5 and the 3 seed. Philadelphia in the NFC East, getting the 4 seed at 11-6. Then the 5 seed will be the Los Angeles Rams at 12-5. And then the NFC South actually is going to round out those 7 teams. I've got New Orleans at 9-8 and Atlanta at 8-9. Atlanta getting the tiebreaker over the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, the 7-team format is going to go deep to a sub 500 team this year. Conversely, in the AFC, I've got Indianapolis at 10-7, missing the playoffs. And that's my breakdown of this top 7. I can go further than that, but I'll let you guys go ahead with your top 7.
I'll jump in. All right. So I've got division winners. So I went back and forth between Dallas and Philly. I mean, somebody's got to win it, right? So actually I had Philly winning the division. Then I changed my mind and I've got Dallas winning the division. I think they're just going to squeak it out. Philly's still going to get in as a wild card. Of course, the Packers are going to get in. I've got Tampa getting in, but here's my maybe not so popular take for the Tampa. I don't think Tom Brady is going to finish the season. I think he's going to have a Favre situation where either over the course of 17 games, he's a 45-year-old dude. Now he's a little bit older, or a little bit younger than we are. He's GOAT quarterback, all that other accolades, whatever. I just to have that guy go for 17 games as an NFL quarterback this year, I don't see him finishing out. So I think Tampa's going to win the division. They're going to squeak by, but they're not going to go deep in the playoffs because they're not going to have QB1. Their backup quarterback is Blaine Gabbert. So good luck with that. Then I've got San Francisco. I've got my wild cards as Philly. The Rams are going to squeak in, and Arizona. So that NFC West again is stacked. Speaking of stacked, on the AFC side, then I've got Buffalo, Baltimore, and went back and forth between Tennessee and Indianapolis. That's another one where it's like, So I went with Indy and KC. Wild cards are the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Titans. So, and then I'll take it a little bit further. So in the division championships, I'll just kind of skip right to that. I've got Green Bay and Dallas, the Ice Bowl rematch, with Green Bay coming out on top. And over in the AFC, I've got Buffalo and the Chargers. I'm going to go like, why not? Right? Let's get crazy. It's going to be played in Buffalo. It's going to be played in Green Bay. The cold or the warm weather, the Southern teams are going to lose. We've got a Green Bay Buffalo Super Bowl, and I will be the homer here, and I will go Green Bay over Buffalo.
Sounded very familiar to Matthew, and I'll get my playoff teams in a moment. Neil, go ahead and give us your breakdown there.
So in the AFC, I've got Buffalo as the 1 seed. I think Buffalo has a chance this year to be the #1 offense and the #1 defense in the NFL, same as the Packers in 1996. And that to me is the overall theme of the year. They were already the #1 defense last year, and Josh Allen is just getting better. I've got Baltimore. I've got the Colts and the Chargers rounding out the division winners. For wildcards, I've got Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Denver. I do believe Russell Wilson moving to the AFC is going to move Denver into the playoff contention. In the NFC, I also was deciding between Philadelphia and Dallas, and I, in the end, decided that I think Mike McCarthy is going to shit the bed a little bit during the regular season for a change. So I specifically chose Philadelphia. I love what Philadelphia, even though I hate Philadelphia, I love what Philadelphia's done in the offseason as far as picking up both skilled players, building the possibly best offensive and defensive line in the NFL. I think Philadelphia is going to be an incredibly strong team and a very dangerous team, other than Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I've got the Packers winning the North. The South, I went with the Saints winning it. I believe in, I agree with you that Tom Brady is going to fall apart this year. I understand all the other talent on Tampa Bay's roster. I think the Saints are just going to be able to do it because Tampa Bay is going to fall apart after the pressure of it's win everything or it doesn't matter. I think the Saints are going to win the South. I've got the Rams winning the West. And it's fundamentally because I don't have enough faith in the other teams in the West to knock them off. I've got Arizona, Minnesota, and Dallas as the wild cards. In the conference championships, I've got Philadelphia against Green Bay with Green Bay winning. I've got Buffalo against San Diego as well, also with Buffalo winning. And like Matthieu, I've got Buffalo over Green Bay for the Super Bowl. I just want to note one thing, though. I mentioned earlier that the biggest thing the Packers have going for them this year is the fact that they're in the NFC. And so if you take the 7 teams that I listed as playoff teams in the NFC and the 7 in the AFC. The NFC quarterbacks after Rodgers are Jalen Hurts, Jameis Winston, Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, and Dak Prescott.
Woo!
On the AFC side, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Matt Ryan, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Burrow, and Russell Wilson.
What's your point? What's the difference?
Quite a difference here as far as those sides are concerned.
A little bit.
This is the biggest thing we've got going for us this year is that we do not have to face the murderer's row of the AFC until hopefully the Super Bowl.
All right. So for my postseason, then I'll skip the wild card round in the divisions, though. In the AFC, I've got Buffalo over Kansas City and the Chargers over Tennessee with the 1 and 2 seeds losing there. Same in the divisional round in the NFC. Green Bay over Tampa Bay and the Rams over Arizona, the 1 and 2 seeds also losing. That means in the AFC Championship game, I've got Buffalo over the LA Chargers. In the NFC Championship game, I've got the Packers over the LA Rams. And in the Super Bowl in Arizona, I've got Green Bay over Buffalo. That means, Jeff, the only thing left to plan is the parade.
I guess so. Wow.
We are an enthusiastic bunch.
I was
That
just
is
say
excellent.
disclaimer that I mean, well, here we
It's
are.
amazing how similar we
Yeah,
came. You know,
that's
I gave
frightening, actually.
Matthew just a bit of direction. Hey, we're going to do predictions. Tell us what you come up with, and he did his independently. We did ours independently, and it is amazing. I think
Fascinating. Yeah,
just
that's
a
awesome.
few. I think Neil, you had Denver in there.
I don't have any faith in Tennessee in the end. I mean, there's a couple
Yeah.
of things going on there, but I think Tennessee is going to be a 7-10, 8-9 team this year.
And I think they'll do what they did last year. They'll be surprisingly strong in the regular season and then shit the bed in the playoffs. I don't have a lot of faith in Russell Wilson, primarily because I watched him play last season, and I just think that Denver overpaid on him. I think that that's going to be a huge folly out there in Denver with Russell Wilson heading out that way, but they'll still squeak out 8 wins. Just because you got some of the lesser teams in the AFC as well. You know, I've got Cleveland winning 3, Houston winning 3, the Jets winning 4. You know, you went down the list of quarterbacks. The big trivia question right now is who's the Houston Texans starting quarterback? That's
Yes.
$1 million question right now. I mean, there's 2 guys. They got 2 guys on the roster that I bet you nobody's even heard of. So yeah, they're going to be struggling under Lovie Smith there. That's a shame. But you know, like I said, I've got Chicago with 2 wins. Seattle with 4 wins, Washington 3 wins. Neil, I think you're overestimating the Commanders this year. Same with the Giants, 5 wins, Carolina 6 wins. But yeah, there's good, there's bad, and there's ugly. And the ugly probably is all of our predictions that we have made for this season, right?
So there's always at least one team that makes a huge leap from prior year, where they've been way sub 500, a 5-win team from the prior year. And I couldn't figure out who that's going to be. I went through and I'm like, who is that going to be? And I think San Francisco, I mean, obviously they had more wins than 5 or 6 last year, but it'll be really interesting to see how I think they're a dangerous team. I think they're good, but they can't figure out who their quarterback is, right? Yeah. So they're going to give the keys to Trey Lance. Maybe not, so I think that dysfunction, I think they're going to be good, but it's going to really hamper their
I think the major thing that San Francisco is going to do is prevent the Rams and Arizona from being the 1 seed. I think that's going to be the biggest effect of San Francisco.
Yeah, and that division is brutal. I mean, both West Coast, both Western division, AFC and NFC, just brutal divisions. It'll be exciting football, right? I mean, great games. But at the end of the day, to be in those divisions, who's going to come out of those? Oof, that's going to be interesting.
The other thing about this, Neil, is my dad is an avid listener, and he's going to write all this shit down, and I guarantee he's going to try to make us put money on these too. So
okay.
So I would suggest that we do a confidence pool before Sunday and put the picks into even more money as far as that's concerned. But yeah, your dad can join this pool as well, and the Barbs can join, and let's have everyone, anyone can join in. So make your confidence picks for all of the 17 Packers games with the highest confidence of 17, lowest confidence of 1. So Jets at 17, and who knows how you're going to work it out from there. But let's make this a competition.
Yeah,
sure. Put it on our Twitter page.
No, I mean, it's a matter of who you think is going to win. If you think the Vikings are going to win, we all do. That's a pretty high confidence pick that the Vikings are going to win. So
yeah.
All right. With that, Jeff, you've got some history for us. What do we need to know?
Packers have been around a long time. We all know that. And so, how many regular season wins, off the top of your head, do you think the Packers have?
Yeah, I knew this too. It's around 800, I think.
It is 782.
Yeah.
So there's another franchise, maybe you've heard of them, the Chicago Bears. Their all-time regular season wins, 783. So based on those numbers, it looks like the Packers will be overtaking. Everything goes smoothly this year, as we expect, as we just predicted, right? That the Packers will overtake the Bears by week 2 or 3. So
possibly even against the Bears.
Actually, that's a very good point. Week 2, the home opener at Lambeau. So the rest of the NFC Norris, if you will. So Detroit has 570 all-time wins, and the Vikings have 503 all-time wins. Now you might say, whoa, wait a minute. That's all time. Well, the Packers and Bears have been around a little bit longer. That much is true. So let's use a different statistic. Wins since 1960. Okay, now the Vikings came in 1961. So, okay. So what do you think the number one team is in wins since 1960?
Well, a lot of lean years in Green Bay and a lot of good years in Minnesota. So I'll lean towards
I'm talking
Minnesota
across the league, though. Just
across the league. I thought you meant just the NFC North. So since 1960?
It's got to be Dallas or Pittsburgh, right? I mean,
yeah.
They've been consistently, both franchises have been consistently good.
Solid pick. So the Packers come in at a number 3. They have 534 regular season wins since 1960. The Steelers top the list at 541. The Cowboys top the list, or excuse me, at second at 538.
We could catch all of them this year. We just need Mike McCarthy to be postseason Mike McCarthy all year. And
exactly. Then we're gonna catch them. So where does the rest of the NFC Norris fit in since 1960? So again, the Vikings. So they've been playing since 1961. So they come in 6th overall in the league at 503 wins. The Bears, 15th at 463. And Detroit, 24th at 394 wins since 1960. Quick other
I think Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson just retired again, just in hearing that.
So some other kind of stats to back that up. In since 1960, that is, the Packers are 2nd in touchdowns, 3rd in points per game, and 3rd in opponents' points per game. So they're about where they should be. So they're very consistent, and they could move ahead of the Cowboys this year since 1960. So we'll see. Like I said, they could move ahead of the Bears in week 2.
Even though none of us predicted that. So, but that's why they play the
Actually,
game.
that's a good point. Yeah, we'd have them tying that Saturday night based on our predictions.
And those are real wins. Those are not Pythagorean wins, correct?
That's correct. Those are honest to goodness regular season wins. Yes.
Excellent. All right, then, before we wrap things up, we have to take a look at this week's game, Packers-Vikings season opener. It's in Minnesota. Jeff, what's the atmosphere like there in the Twin Cities?
Well, new coaching staff, as we've talked about. Hope springs eternal. First game of the season. It'll be sold out. It'll be interesting to see how many Vikings season ticket holders have sold their season tickets to Packer fans. It's supposed to be a gorgeous weekend at beautiful indoor US Bank Stadium. As we all predicted, the 4 of us on this fine podcast tonight all predicted Packers losing. We'll see what happens. I think I've said this before. I think it's going to be a defensive struggle. I think offenses are going to be really, really challenged. I think this could be a low scoring game. I would love to see the Packers pull out a win in Minnesota. I think I don't know what to expect. And I don't know if anybody we've talked about the receivers. We talked about, is Rodgers going to throw the ball to anybody? Is it going to be a running game? Is it going to be, I have no idea. It's intriguing. It'll be fun. We're hopefully gonna, we'll be able to watch it together, or at least, in communication with each other. I have literally no idea what to expect. The odds makers say the Packers are going to win on the road. I have no idea.
The last I saw was Green Bay only favored by 1.5.
But there's still 1.5 on the road, which is
on the road.
Yeah,
it's still going to be tight. But
I don't know.
Minnesota is effectively going to win what is a 4th preseason game, or what, until they prove differently. I'm going to use that New Orleans season opener last year to judge all season openers going forward. And unfortunately for you, the Vikings fans are going to treat it like they've won the Super Bowl, and they're going to be insufferable for you for a while.
You know, Jeff. What? It's a new coaching staff. It's a new regime. We'll see.
Let them have hope for a little bit.
I've mellowed a bit. Well, like I said, I just want to see a good game. I'd love it if Green Bay could win. If the Vikings win, my wife will be happy. So that'll be awesome. And other Vikings fans will be happy for the week if they win.
Sounds good.
The Vikings are an interesting test as far as the Packers defense is concerned, because the
Mhm.
Vikings were already a top 10 offense last year. And that's, with Zimmer as their head coach. Now they've got a Sean McVay disciple in Kevin O'Connell. And I think there's no way that Kirk Cousins doesn't actually improve with a coach that actually wants to throw the ball rather than being allergic to sending the ball downfield.
But remember, Kirk has never played in a game in this new regime. In preseason,
he's never played, but he's at least got established receivers, and he's got young receivers who are going to be good. He's got Dalvin Cook as well. I think that their offense is going to be better set up than our offense is going to be. And they've got a motivated Zadarius Smith for whatever we think that he's going to be worth. He certainly has been yapping off during the last few days as far as what he thinks is going to happen. I made this prediction, and I think we all made this prediction before we heard of Lazard missing practice today, but that's another question when we have one sort of semi-established receiver and he can't do anything. I think our defense is going to be good. I think our offense is going to be sketchy. I think the Vikings offense is going to be good enough in the context of home field advantage. And quite frankly, the Vikings winning their own Super Bowl in week 1 is kind of the best case scenario if you want to torture Vikings fans, because they're going to be even more miserable when they fail at the end of the season. They see themselves as being, we've defeated the Packers. We are now the team to beat in the NFC North. And those illusions are going to be shattered as the season progresses. And that, quite frankly, makes it even more enjoyable.
John, your thoughts?
All right. Same thing, like I just said, that season opener. So I expect a Vikings win, and they'll treat it like it is the end of the season, and they'll be insufferable for a while. But we'll get over it. We'll recover and have a successful season in Green Bay.
So the immortal words of Aaron Rodgers, RELAX.
That's right. And
but Rodgers' immortal words are also, I've been immunized. So, I mean, I don't think we should treat his words as so immortal, but
he also said, get out there, get the PBR rolling early and get the tailgating ready to go and get ready for a home opener. And that's what we have on the horizon. So on the horizon next week is Bears week. We'll have we'll talk about the Packers Bears. We'll talk about tailgating in Green Bay. We also have on the horizon, we've got a special show coming up where we're going to talk about our big road trip and just kind of concentrate on giving advice to people on how to travel Canada and Alaska and things like that. So that's on the horizon. Before we head out of here, any words of wisdom, Neil?
My closing thoughts, I think we just went through. I mean, it's going to be an interesting season at a fundamental level. I think we're all confident, but we can all see ways that things might turn south very quickly. And it's just going to be a matter of hoping that our defense is good enough until the offense figures it out. And I have confidence in the receivers we have in the end. It may take until week 10 before we start to figure out what our receiving room is and who the stars are going to be. But I think it's going to happen. And once Aaron Rodgers figures out who the people are that he can trust, who he can send long, who he can get in the underneath routes, who's going to catch the ball, I think that we're going to be really tough to beat. And I'm looking forward to when we reach that point, and I'm hoping the defense gives us enough games until then.
Jeff, what do you got?
I agree with everything Neil said. I'm looking forward over the course. This will be our first full year of podcasting too. So, right. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward
Jeff,
to that.
What you're really saying is that we're going to be 0-17 given our
Christ, I hope
we need to get a win under this podcast.
We've talked about
unfortunately, it won't be this week, right?
Oh my God. I mean, we could still be on a roll here with no wins during the regular season or postseason, if depending on what happens. But looking forward, having guests, having Matthieu on tonight was fun. Hopefully we can have some guests that we had last year, back on. We'll get, some new folks on, just kind of get more comfortable in this format, hit our stride. Full season worth of discussion, worth of, we got a road trip in there, we could do
they're going to be a lot of coolers that are involved as far as Jeff watching games.
No, actually, I mapped that out. There's actually not that many games that won't be televised here, but nonetheless, looking forward to a fun season. I think it's looking forward to, spending time with you guys every week. John?
All right. Well, big thanks to our special guest, Matthieu, from the Packers France Twitter account and TetesDeFromage, the webpage. We'll get you the spelling on that and the link on our Twitter page. So as always, you can get information on the GBC podcast at Green Bay Chat on Twitter and on Facebook at the GBC podcast Green Bay Chat. And as always, may you fully appreciate the magnitude of your impending good fortune.
Go
Thanks
Pack.
for joining us.
Go Pack, go.
Good night.